America loves its heroes. We build monuments for them, write books about them, and watch their stories on the big screen. But what if I told you some of the bravest Americans never make the headlines? They don't get medals. There are no viral videos celebrating their names. Tonight, you're going to hear a story the USA was never told, a true story of courage that didn't scream for attention, but quietly changed lives forever. And by the time this story is over, you may never define courage the same way again. In a small, quiet, Midwestern town, far from the towering skyscrapers and the flashing cameras of the big cities, lived a man named Daniel Mercer. He wasn't rich. He wasn't famous. He wasn't powerful. Daniel worked as a night janitor at the local public high school, cleaning hallways and classrooms long after the last student had gone home for the day. For most people, he was just part of the background. A shadow moving through the empty corridors. To them, he was practically invisible. But what nobody knew, what nobody could see, was that Daniel was carrying a battle inside of him far heavier than anything you'd ever see on the evening news. Daniel's life wasn't easy. He grew up in deep poverty. His father abandoned the family when he was young, leaving his mother to work 3 different jobs just to try and keep the lights on, a battle she often lost. At the young age of 16, Daniel made a difficult choice. He dropped out of high school to start working and help support his younger siblings. While other teenagers were dreaming of college parties and future careers, Daniel's dreams were more immediate. He dreamed of having enough groceries to feed his family. He watched his friends, one by one, find their own ways to escape their small town, chasing bigger and better things. But Daniel stayed behind. It wasn't because he lacked ambition or dreams of his own, but because he refused to abandon his family. That was his first act of real courage, even if nobody was there to applaud it. One cold winter night, as Daniel was making his rounds, a fire broke out in the high school gym. The alarm bells shrieked through the empty building. Everyone assumed the school was deserted for the night, but as Daniel was about to evacuate, he heard something. It was faint, almost lost in the crackle of the flames. A cough, a weak cry for help. A student, a homeless teenager trying to escape the bitter cold, had snuck into the gym earlier to find a safe place to sleep. Smoke was already pouring into the hallways, thick and black. The fire was spreading with terrifying speed. In that moment, Daniel had 2 choices: run, save himself, and leave the student to their fate, or go back inside, into the inferno. He didn't hesitate. Not for a second. It wasn't because he felt brave. In fact, he was probably terrified. He went back because he refused to let a child die alone and afraid. That single decision, made in a smoke-filled hallway, could have cost him his life. Firefighters arrived just minutes later. They stormed the building and found Daniel unconscious on the floor of the gym. His lungs were scorched from the smoke he'd inhaled, but his arms were wrapped tightly around the teenager he had refused to leave behind. Miraculously, the student survived. Daniel survived too, but just barely. Yet, there were no news crews waiting outside the hospital, no viral headlines celebrating his heroism, no national praise for his selfless act. The story, like so many others, just faded away into silence. But for that one life he saved, for that one teenager who got a second chance, Daniel Mercer was a legend. Months later, Daniel returned to his job at the high school. He was weaker now, moving a little slower, the fire having taken a permanent toll on his body, and he was still just as unnoticed as before. He never bragged about what he did. He never asked for any recognition. When a colleague who knew the story asked him why he risked his life for a stranger, Daniel's answer was simple. He just said, "Somebody once saved me. I was just passing it forward." That one sentence, spoken quietly in an empty school hallway, carried more courage than 1,000 grand speeches. It makes you think, doesn't it? Real courage isn't always loud. It doesn't always wear a uniform or stand on a podium. It doesn't always trend on social media with millions of likes. Sometimes, courage looks like staying when it's much easier to leave. It looks like standing up for what's right when no one else is watching. It looks like protecting someone even when it costs you everything you have. True courage is about doing the right thing, not for the applause, but because it is the right thing to do. America teaches us to celebrate the winners, the ones who finish first. But Daniel's story reminds us that we should also honor the fighters, the ones who refuse to give up, no matter the odds. Years passed. The student Daniel had saved grew up. He never forgot the man who pulled him from the fire. He dedicated his life to helping others and became a paramedic. On his very first day of duty, he made a special visit. He went to the high school and found Daniel still quietly cleaning the halls. With tears welling up in his eyes, the young paramedic looked at the old janitor and said, "You saved my life, and now I save others because of you." That was Daniel's true legacy. Not fame, not fortune, but impact. A ripple effect of kindness that started with one selfless act. The story the USA never told you is this: courage isn't about being fearless. It's not about the absence of fear. It's about choosing to act, even when you're terrified. It's about doing what's right, even when nobody claps for you. If you're out there waiting for the perfect moment to feel brave, please stop waiting. Be brave while you're shaking. Be strong while you're afraid. Be courageous even when you think the world will never notice. Because the greatest heroes in America aren't always the loudest or the most celebrated. They're the ones who quietly refuse to quit. The ones who show up day after day. The next untold story of courage could be yours. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please consider sharing it and subscribing for more.